Peace, what's cracking? Patrick, Conservative Rap. Now let's talk a little bit about what happened in D.C. Recently with the National Guard shooting. Prayers and thoughts go out to the one remaining who's in critical care, and to the family of the female who was taken out by these bastards. Now I'm going to put to Councilwoman Vicky Palladino. I think she really summed this up pretty well. I don't understand these posts saying the guardsmen shouldn't have been put in harm's way by being deployed in Washington, D.C. when they're guardsmen. They're basically saying American soldiers are unsafe in the capital city of their own nation, as though we were equal to deployment in a foreign war zone. It's almost bizarre how many leftist accounts are parroting this narrative. Like, of course people are going to try to murder the National Guard. What do you expect to happen in Washington? Is this the narrative here? The Washington is the Fallujah? Or is it just that the left has declared a de facto, here we go. Is it just that the left has declared a de facto state of war and casualties are now to be expected? It's extremely bizarre either way. Very well said. Hold on. Very well said. Right. Awesome. Storm has arrived on X. Attorney Jean, let's hear it for ourselves.
There are people who are also upset with the president believing that the National Guard members should not even have been there if it were not for the executive order.
I don't even want to talk about whether they should have been there. We ought to kiss the ground and thank God that the president said it's time to bring in more law enforcement to make sure that a city that had the fourth highest homicide rate in the country was that violence was quelled. I'm not even going to go there.
Done. I love how this woman deals with these people. Now let's move in on to Trump. And I'm not going to play the whole thing. It's a little on the longer side. But Act of Terror says 500 more troops will be coming to D.C. and that'll clamp down on the illegal aliens. If they can't love our country, we don't want them. And ask every family to say a prayer, too, for the great heroes.
Fellow Americans, earlier today, on the eve of the Thanksgiving holiday, 2 members of the National Guard serving in Washington, D.C., were shot at point-blank range in a monstrous ambush-style attack just steps away from the White House. They had been deputized as part of the most successful public safety and national security mission in the history of our nation's capital, the D.C. Safe and Beautiful Task Force, which has achieved an unprecedented reduction in violent crime and crimes of all types. This heinous assault was an act of evil, an act of hatred, and an act of terror. It was a crime against our entire nation. It was a crime against humanity. The hearts of all Americans tonight are with those 2 members of the West Virginia National Guard and their families. The love of our entire country is pouring out for them, and we are lifting them up in our prayers. As we are
100%. Now let's go over to Aviva Frey on X. This is barely from 1 month ago. Understand that. Slotkin saying it's only a matter of time before. I mean, she must be like a Brennan CIA operative or something. How did she predict this type of thing? Let's take a look.
As a CIA officer, the idea that intelligence officers could be asked to target Americans turns my stomach. And it would shift us into a modern-day surveillance state. Turning the federal government against Trump's enemies goes hand in hand with his use of force in American cities, both federal law enforcement and the military. As of today, the president has attempted to deploy more than 7,000 National Guard members across 5 cities, including right here in Washington. In August, the administration ordered the creation of 2 new National Guard units, a standing quick reaction force that can deploy anywhere in the country, and then separately, National Guard units in all 50 states focused on quelling so-called civil disturbances. At this point, Trump has been very clear about his intent. At Quantico, speaking as commander-in-chief, he instructed his military brass to use cities as, quote, training grounds. And many times, he's floated the idea of invoking the Insurrection Act so that military units can raid, detain, and arrest Americans. The president has already deployed.
She leaves out completely the illegal immigration aspect and the crime aspect. It's ridiculous.
ICE and other federal law enforcement to these same cities across America. In some cases, these federal officers are playing fast and loose with their tactics, which sooner or later could lead to a deadly escalation. The videos out of Chicago are shocking. Federal agents pulling their weapons on highways, firing tear gas into neighborhoods right before a Halloween parade, injuring and even killing civilians. Many are masked, not wearing uniforms, and driving unmarked cars. For those of us who served abroad, it feels like another country. And it's only a matter of time before things get worse. By my estimation, we're about 2 weeks away from a bloody incident that spirals out of control.
How does she know this? People are waking up to this, and it's fantastic. Now let's take a little bit of a deeper dive. National Guard shooter Ramanullah Lakhanwal, this is the part they leave out, and his wife and 5 children eventually moved to the Walton Pace Apartments, which is partnered with the Bellingham Housing Authority, aka subsidized housing. National Guard shooter once stayed in this $2.7 million home in Washington, owned by Stanley and Valerie Creighton. The Creightons sponsored Laquani and his family in 2021 as part of Biden's Operations Allies Welcome program. They appear to be serial profiteers of the refugee industry and have sponsored other Afghani families and Syrian refugees too. Who's paying for all this? The answer is us. It's unfortunate. Now, moving on just a little further, let's go a little bit deeper down the rabbit hole. Lakhanwal, the shooter, 29-year-old from Afghanistan who targeted and shot 2 members of the West Virginia National Guard today in Washington, D.C., didn't just serve in the Afghan army, but reportedly was a member of the Afghan National Army Commando Corps, an elite direct action force of the AFN who fought directly alongside U.S. Special Forces against the Taliban. In addition, Fox News is reporting that Lakhanwal worked with various other government entities from the United States and Afghanistan, including the CIA, specifically as part of a CIA-backed Kandahar strike force, known in most intelligence circles as NDS-03, which operated outside of the U.S. and Afghan military chain of commands directly under the CIA, carrying out covert, clandestine, counterterrorism operations, including night raids and assassinations against Taliban and Al-Qaeda. Very sick. And wokeness, here we go, just to close out. Trump predicts that there will be a mistake to take Afghan refugees in. This is from years ago, 3 years ago.
And nobody knows who the hell they are, Cheryl. These aren't the interpreters that we taught. These were people that rushed into the planes, and they were so interested in trying to make it sound like, oh, they're doing a good job. These people, many of these people are going to be terrorists, okay? They're going to be terrorists. They were very powerful. They were very energetic in getting onto the aircraft.
They say
But
they're
many-
vetting them very carefully with biometrics and documentation.
They're not doing that, and you can't because there is no documentation in that country now, and nobody knows who the hell they are, Cheryl.
Again, it's a terrible thing that happened in D.C., and you can see the deep state doesn't care about America or Americans. They're trying to get this narrative out that MAGA is splitting, but stuff like this unites us. And even though individuals are trying to separate it apart, they stand no chance. They tried going after Trump, they tried assassinating him, and that didn't work. So dividing us is the thing that they want to put forward. We're really fighting against the secret arm of a clandestine government that's tyrannical in nature. This Afghan person was one of their foot soldiers, and the attitude they have towards the shooting shows you who they are and what they stand for. The big beautiful bill goes into effect in 2026. Trump needs to take his time so that the people can wake up to who the enemy is, and stuff like this just exposes them. The deep state is really panicking, and when you panic like that, you naturally make mistakes. What do you think? Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, share, and check me out at ConservativeRap.com for more. Thanks and take care.